Hi, and welcome to Origin of Concepts. In this episode, we will explore Ptah, the high god from Memphis in Egypt, which is one of the most ancient and significant deities in Egyptian mythology, the ultimate architect and master builder, who created the earth, the heavens, and the Ennead, the 9 deities, through the power of his heart and his tongue. The Ennead transformed the primordial chaos into ordered existence. So he created the gods who make the rest of the world, so to speak. Ptah is one of the eldest characters made with inspiration from the Milky Way center, of course. Otherwise, he would not have been in this video. So let's get to the Milky Way. Ptah is depicted as a man in mummy form, often covered with golden feathers, with a green or golden face, wearing a blue skull cap. He is holding a staff that combines the jet and ankh, and sometimes also the vas scepter. And let's start drawing here, because Ptah is, or the mummy, so to speak. Ptah is, this is Ptah's head, and here is his mummy body. And, the mummy got all these bandages, and that's the striped shadows. And the golden feathers is, of course, the golden light emanating from the disc into the striped shadow here. So, and the striped shadow itself is the feathers. It looks like feathers. And every time you hear about feathers in Egypt mythology, that's the striped shadow, the feathers in the sky. And then he got a green face, and sometimes he's got a golden face. And the golden face is, of course, because of the disc color here. But it depends on in which role he has, because his green face is the area up here, because it's the bluish and greenish area, turquoise. So it's here the green colors originate. Also on the Osiris, which also have a green face. So it's the green face of Ptah. And then we got his blue skull cap. And let me remove all this, because as I mentioned before, the area above his head can be blue or green or white, depending on which angle from Earth you're looking. And in this case, it's the blue skull cap on the head of Ptah. And then he's got the classical pharaoh beard, and this is also the striped shadow here, the hair or the beard from his head, or chin or cheek. Okay, and let me clean the board here, because his staff of jet and the ankh and vas scepter combined into one is, of course, the striped shadow here. This is the staff with the jet pillar. And then we got the ankh. The ankh is basically this area here. And then the vas scepter is the entire Milky Way center here. You can go watch my Ankh video and my Vas Scepter video. And soon I'll come up with that jet pillar video. So here you see where they got the inspiration for his staff. And next, Ptah created himself from a void. And that's very simple, because the void is always this area again. This is the void from where everything is created. And the first things happen is that it manifests spirit. The void is like spirit, which manifests in the golden disc here. And then the light is sent by the striped shadow into earth. And as you have seen in some of my other videos, this area is the earth, the black land of Egypt, Kemet. And then we got a text that Ptah brought the sky, world, and the Ennead into being by imagining them in his heart and speaking them into existence using his tongue. Okay, I will draw it again here. This is the sky. And which he brought, of course. And the Ennead is the stripes here in the stripe shadow. There's 9 of them, and sometimes 7 or whatever. This is the visualization of the Enneads, the God he's creating. And then we got his heart, which is of course the disk in the Milky Way center. And the heart is also his thoughts. And then he is speaking, and his speech is also represented by the striped shadow here. He's speaking. But let me do it on the clean board here. So this is his voice speaking into creation. And of course this voice comes from the great mouth here in the Milky Way center. Because it's the mouth. So here he speaks into creation. And maybe some of you will think abracadabra. Yeah, it comes from here. You know, manifestation through speech. And he basically speak with his tongue. So because the striped shadow here is also his tongue. So it's both. Okay, let's move on. The Memphite triad. In Memphis, Ptah was the head of a divine family. He was married to the lioness goddess Sekhmet, and his father was Nefertim. And I won't go into details, but I'll just line them up quickly so you can see the relation of the Trinity. And then I'll make another video about Sekhmet and Nefertim. But Sekhmet is the silvery shadow here. Let me find another color, female color. It's this female shape, which is basically every single female in every single myth around the world. And she got the head of the lion, which is here. This is the lion head here. And of course, the lion in the Milky Way is this here, and because its front legs out here. And I'll make a lion video later. But this is the lion head on the female body segment. And then we got, let me see if I can keep this. And then we got his father, Nefertem, which is the blue lotus, and which is visualized by the blue area above the disc. Let me make the blue lotus here. Yeah, this is the blue lotus here. It's still closed, it's not unfolded. But when it's unfolded, you got the leaves here. The stripe shadow here represents the flowers when it's open. The Milky Way center is the lotus flower also in the ancient East, in the Hinduism and stuff like that, and in Egypt too. So this is the lotus flower. I'll make a video about the lotus flower on another day. And his father, Nefertem, the blue lotus, representing the first sunset. And again, it has nothing to do with a sunset but it's the first light inside the lotus flower, of course. And it was also here the atom was created. And if you don't know, Atum and Ptah is the two oldest god in the Egypt pantheon or mythology. So, and they are pretty similar. All right, enough of Ptah's father. Let's go back and talk about Ptah as the master architect who designed the universe and invented the techniques of masonry. And now I'll draw a couple of tools and stuff like that, but it's not a part of the mythology of the text, but it's just to show where all the tools is here, basically. And it's also used by the Freemasonry, by the way. So let me draw them here. First of all, we got the angle. The angle is the pyramid in the sky here, which is also used as inspiration to build the pyramids. And then we got the circle in the middle, the compass, which is the area surrounding the disc here. And then we got the ruler, it's the striped shadow here. And then we got the plumb line, and the plumb line, it's like a pendulum, to see if things are standing vertical correctly. And I think, it's just a guess, but we got this thin shadow here to the top of the pyramid, and I think that's, it's used, as the plumb line. And then all these tools are used to work in stone. And the stone, the one and only stone in the entire Milky Way, is the striped shadow here. The fine cutted stone, or the cornerstone, or the rock, or the foundation stone, or the philosopher's stone, or the stone under King David's throne, or the stone. That's all the stones here. So, the rock. And of course, the Egyptians also used metals like gold and bronze and copper, which is, let me clear here. The gold and bronze and copper is, of course, the golden disc light. And the silver and lead is the female shadow over here. So that's the gold and silver colors. So when you look up in the mythologies and you see gold and silver, it's always from this source. Okay, so now you know a little more about the master builder, or the architect of the universe, so to speak, if you have to use a Mason language. Okay, and Ptah's temple in Memphis housed a sacred Apis bull, which was considered the physical incarnation of Ptah. So when he's in his godly role, he's in what's invisible. You can't see him. And when he, incarnate is not the right word, but when he's manifests himself, it's like the Apis bull. And let me just draw it here, because this is the Apis bull here. Just follow the lines here. And here you got the Apis bull, and it's lying down here somewhere. And its stomach here, and there's a star up here, which is the eye, of course. And the tail is the striped shadow. Always the hair. So here you see the Apis bull. And the Apis bull, sometimes got the golden disc. This is also the golden calf and the heavenly bull, and you name it. So here you got it. And by the way, the bull is surrounding Ptah's temple, because the Milky Way is the temple of Ptah, or the inside of his head, his spirit, so to speak. And it leads me to origin of the name Egypt, because the name Egypt comes from Hakapta in ancient Egypt language, which means the temple of temple of the Ka of Ptah. A phrase. It's the name Egypt comes from, it was the Greek who made it, like from the Egyptus. So, but the name Haktapa means the temple in Memphis, where Ptah's temple, and which is believed by many scholars to be the origin of the Greek word Egyptus. So what I want to say here is the name Egypt is just a name of Ptah's temple in Memphis, and the Egypts use it to name the entire Kemet, the Egypt land. So the original name was Kemet. So, but it becomes Egypt. And let me draw Egypt here, because first of all, the temple is always the striped shadow here, with all the towers and buildings and pillars. The stripes is the pillars, and inside the temple is inside the skull of Ptah. So basically the entire Milky Way is the Egypt. So now you know that this temple in Memphis, they were not talking about the temple itself, but the temple in the Milky Way, and they named the temple after that. So, and that's why the Ptah's name is a part of the name Egypt. Okay, let's move on here. The funerary significance. Ptah resided over the opening of the mouth ceremony, which was a funeral ritual which made the deceased able to see, speak, hear, and eat in the afterlife. And you know, some schoolers, they really believe that they try to open the mouth of the dead people in the ceremony. But I doubt. I think it's all up here in the mind. And let's try to find out why. Because first of all, the open of the mouth ceremony, you know, it's all about the open mouth in the Milky Way here. So this is the open mouth. Ptah was the opener. And the reason to open the mouth so the deceased, you know, can get their senses back in the afterlife. First of all, I'll start with the things related to the mouth. They must get their speech back, which is the striped shadow, of course. And they must eat, you know. So speech is what's coming out, and eat is what going into the mouth. And they also need to get their sight back. And you already know that this is the big eye in the Milky Way here. So they must have their sight back so they can see in the afterlife. And they also want to hear, and therefore we got the big ear of the Milky Way here. It's something like that. That's the ear. The Milky Way center is the big ear, it's the big mouth and the big nose. So here they got their hearing back, and the striped shadow is the sound going into the ear. Okay, I think that's all for the funerary significance. Yeah, it was. So now you know the origin of the open of the mouth ceremony by Ptah. And I wrote here, Ptah is the opener of the netherworld. He fashioned and hollowed out the Amenta, which is the same as the duat and the underworld, the place you go when you die. And establishing it as the place of rebirth and transformation. And now I just took AI description here, but it was not for rebirth because the Egyptians don't believe in reincarnation, so it's the rebirth of the spirit. And yeah, I'll make it quick. The underworld is the entire Milky Way center is the duat, the underworld, and this is the Amenta, the Hall of Amenti. If you read some New Age descriptions, this is the place they are going, and I don't think I got more for that. No. It's the place. Yeah, I can, there's the two horizons, and I can do it quickly here. This symbol here, which has nothing to do with I think it's something like that. That's the symbol of the two horizons, the entrance to the duat. So it's here. And I'll make a separate video regarding this topic. Okay, what else do we have here? I think that Well, let me read here. Yeah, we got all that. The Epistle, the Ptah, the funerary, and the opener. Yeah. I don't think I have more to say. Ptah is the name of Egypt. No, I got it all. So now you know where to find. Let us try to draw Ptah for the last time here. Like a goodbye. And here we got the head of Ptah. And here we got his mummy body. And inside here we got all his staff with the ankh stuff. So here you got Ptah. Okay, that's all folks. I hope you enjoyed the video and thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I always enjoy to show you new stuff. Okay, until next video, take care. Bye.